Understanding how Lebanon ended up in today's situation means knowing the events of the bloody civil war that raged in the country for years. On the streets of Beirut, the wounds of that period are still clearly visible. They are a reminder to every passerby. That is what is called the Yellow House. Before the Civil War, it was a private house. We are in the center of Beirut. This is Damascus Street. But during the Civil War, it was occupied by Christian militias. Christian militias had snipers on top of the roof, and this was a no-go zone. You could not walk here, otherwise you would probably get shot. After the end of the Civil War, the house is being kept like this because nowadays this is a memorial. The Civil War in Lebanon, it has a lot to do with the Cold War. The Soviet Union was supporting the Islamic militia while the United States, the Christian militia, a lot of money from all over the world were coming here in Lebanon to fuel the civil war. Useless to say, money, fiat money, printed out of thin air. It is at this exact moment of our exploration that things suddenly change. Indeed, local TV stations stop their programming and start broadcasting reports like this
one. We're getting a devastating first-hand look at the site of that music festival where more than 250 people were killed by Hamas.
700 Israelis are now feared dead after unprecedented attacks by Hamas militants.
The northern front heats up as missiles have been launched at Jerusalem from both Lebanon and Syria. According to the Israel Defense Forces, or the IDF, 15 rockets were fired from Lebanon at the Western Galilee, setting off sirens in several towns. And later, an anti-tank guided missile was launched from Lebanon.
Now, let's think about this for a second. After everything we have told you about the economic situation in Lebanon, the question is, how does a failed state, a state so bankrupt that fails to operate the national power grid, even consider an armed conflict? Yes, because let's remember that Hezbollah sits in the Lebanese parliament. They are a political party, not only a militia. With what money are missiles being launched? And this is not just about Lebanon. After the start of this new conflict in the Middle East, the situation escalated quickly, leading Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to declare that the United States, Israel's historical ally, can afford to support two wars at once. One in backing Ukraine and one in backing Israel. Wait a second. Are we talking about the same Yellen who in May 2022 warned the world that the US was one step away from default and that raising the debt ceiling would be the only way to avoid a catastrophe? How is it possible that the United States, in a matter of months, has gone from the brink of catastrophe to be able to afford to support two different armed conflicts at the same time? What changed? The US Parliament raised the debt ceiling, of course. This is how weapons are bought and army are funded today, in debt. Alex Gladstein of the Human Rights Foundation calls them credit card wars very effectively. You see, this is the most nefarious element of the fiat system. We print money out of thin air, and the bulk of that money goes to finance wars that would be otherwise unsustainable, in a spiral of violence and new debt. But if this statement is true, do we have data to support it? In this graph, we see the number of countries with state-based armed conflict from 1946 to 2020. 1971, the beginning of the Fiat standard, is marked by the red arrow. The trend is crystal clear and sharply upward. In fact, we are at the all-time high. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, world military expenditure rose to $2,240 billion in 2022, the highest level ever recorded. And it's not just us who are saying this. According to the Watson Institute at Brown University, the US federal government spent $8 trillion on the post-9/11 conflicts, almost entirely by borrowing. Interest payments only could total over $6.5 trillion by the 2050s. This is the real problem. The fiat system incentivize war because those who benefits most from central bank's printer is the military. This is the biggest promise of Bitcoin. This is the biggest goal. Gradually shifting from a debt-based system to an economy based on sound money makes wars less affordable. And this, by the way, is what the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, meant when he wrote that we can win a major battle in the arms race and gain a new territory of freedom for several years. Bitcoin is a tool of peace, not a trivial investment asset. And this is what fiat money truly is. Packing on our final day in Lebanon in our hotel room, and this is our final Lebanese blackout. This is the daily life of the people of Lebanon. This is actually a very long blackout. Usually they don't last that long because the power generator, the private power generator, kicks in when the grids goes off. I don't know what's going on. It's just to make our packing easier, I guess. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. Where are we, Laura?
Larnaca.
Where?
Cipro.
And the city is called?
Larnaca.
So we are not in Beirut and we are not in Lebanon anymore. Why?
Because there is the war.
Oh.
And I wanted to save my ass and the one of my boyfriend.
No. There is not the war in Lebanon, not yet at least. Unfortunately, though, there is the war in Israel, between Israel and the Gaza Strip, and there are still tensions with Lebanon on the southern border. The problem was that Israel, in the past few hours, announced a full-scale military operation against Gaza. The Israeli troops will enter Gaza, and Hezbollah said that if Israel does that, they will attack Israel. We don't know exactly if this is going to happen, but we decided to come back to Europe a few days earlier than what was originally planned. We were not in danger.
No,
We've never
we
been in
felt
danger.
once.
We've never been in danger, and I don't think Beirut, where we were staying, will be in danger. But there is the risk that if something happened, they might close the airport in Beirut, and we could eventually get stuck there. And this is something we really cannot afford, also because our journey to Middle East was coming to an end anyway. So we decided not to take risks. So that's why we're in Cyprus now. So back to Europe and our
It's
flight.
1:32. We have the flight at 7. Since we
See.
booked super late, we
Yeah.
had a very bad flight, but
It's okay. We're gonna be in Milan tomorrow morning, so I guess this is officially the end of our Middle East expedition. We loved it.
oh my god,
We will be back for sure.
we left our heart there.
Turkey and Lebanon are really amazing countries. We met amazing people there, and we're gonna hear a lot about Bitcoin in these two countries. So the Bitcoin explorers will be back there for sure. I am very excited to announce you all what happens next. If you follow our social media, probably you already know.
If you don't follow us,
If you don't follow us, you must. Laura is always grumpy at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's it from the Middle East expedition. Ciao.